Welcome to ExceedTV, an online video production produced by Exceed Online, an e-commerce and online marketing agency based in Auckland, New Zealand and Sydney, Australia. Today, my name is Jason Greenwood. I'll be your host for the day. My cohort, Lance O'Grady, is not with me today because we've got a very special guest for you today, which I'll introduce in just a moment. But just to give you a heads up, as always, we've got our ExceedTV resources in terms of the outline of today's episode will be put up online on our website underneath the resources tab, and it'll be linked to from this video as well as the description underneath with some other valuable links that you'll be able to access our Facebook page, some of our other online resources for you as well. Now, as I said, we've got a very special guest today. His name is Ken Daniels, and he happens to be not only my boss, but he also happens to be the head of strategy and marketing here at Exceed Online. So he's got a pretty important job here at Exceed, and it's great to be able to work with Ken because he's got a really sharp mind. He's got a really good head for analytics, and he helps to make my life easier in many respects, or helps me do my job better, and I always like that. So, Ken, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's exciting. It's exciting. I think this is one of the first, if not the first, interview that we've done so far.
I think it is. First of many, maybe.
Let's hope so.
You never know.
It depends on if the audience likes you enough or not.
So it's like this video to show your support.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks very much, guys. Anyways, we might as well just jump straight in. We've got a few key questions that we'd like to ask you today and get your input on. I think that more than anything else, what the audience is going to want to know is, tell us a little bit about your role, what it entails, and how you became interested in analytics in the first place, because it's not, I guess, the first thing someone would think of when they're thinking of online.
Sure. My career started probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and analytics, Google Analytics sort of really rolled out around that time, and it sort of morphed from Urchin into Google Analytics as we know it today. Really, it started off with needing to, I guess, get results around the sort of online marketing work that I was doing back then, and understanding if what I was actually doing was working, and being able to demonstrate results. And Google Analytics at the time, and still is today, is free, and really allowed me to produce reports and show results to clients in a very functional and easy to read way. So Google Analytics really straight out of the box allowed a lot more flexibility in reporting than any other product on the market at the time. So that's sort of how I sort of became involved with Google Analytics. And it's really just been great seeing the product grow over time, and it's probably been out for 7 or 8 years now. And it's come a long way in that time, and it continues to grow at a pretty rapid rate. Fantastic.
That's fantastic. Now, in terms of, I guess, your day-to-day usage of analytics, what in terms of your job, how does that influence and sort of drive your day and some of the ways that you interact with our clients here at Exceed?
So Google Analytics really is for any e-commerce website, which is where Exceed specializes in. Google Analytics is really the key to any e-commerce website. Google Analytics, from a day-to-day basis, we use to really find opportunities and I guess issues with the website, and use analytics not just to show us numbers and look at visits and page views and all these sort of vanity metrics, but actually dig down really deep, segment and find opportunities with websites where we can use our design and build capabilities to actually take advantage of new functionality or opportunities that present themselves through Google Analytics.
Fantastic. I mean, I know we've talked about this. This is actually part 3 of a Google Analytics series that we've done, as you know. And in the first two segments, Lance and I just covered quite a bit, both from a very high level as well as a slightly more deep dive level of what analytics is capable of bringing to the table in terms of KPIs that we monitor on a regular basis and how it influences our jobs and how it allows us to make data-driven decisions not only for the Exceed business, but also on behalf of our clients and communicate those things to them in many respects, things that they would never look at. So that's a win, as I think you brought out. What, in your opinion, what is your favorite go-to report in Google Analytics that you would use probably more than anything else?
Yeah, probably the go-to report is site search reporting with Google Analytics, and especially considering we work primarily with e-commerce websites, site search is probably one of the key components for any e-commerce website, and Google Analytics, they provide a really easy way of reporting on that sort of activity and the amount of reporting and insights we can get out of the site search reports in Google Analytics really gives us a lot of key information about how people use site search, what they're finding easy to use and what they're getting good results from in terms of the site search experience, and where they're falling down, and that then allows us to use technology and the platforms that we use for e-commerce websites to optimize the site search experience, and then ultimately provide a better site search experience through optimization.
Brilliant. And I guess that also, it allows the visitors who do have a positive site search experience a couple of things. One is they trust site search more, so they use it more because the results they're getting are very relevant, much like I think most visitors would expect their site search experience to be very similar to their Google experience, which is, hey, we expect the results, we expect search to read our mind. And although that's possibly a capability Google has, not so much for site search. So we've got to improve that through some intelligent thinking based on data that we pull out of Google Analytics.
That's right. People are conditioned to use site search, to search when they go online through Google, and then therefore are more conditioned to use site search when they arrive on a website. Up to 50% of people will look to use site search when they arrive on a website for the first time. And data shows and research shows that the more people you can get using site search, the more likely they are to convert. Conversion rates for site search users is actually between 2 to 8 times higher than those people who don't use site search. So the better site search experience you can create for people, when they return, they'll know to use site search to start their visit, and therefore become more likely to convert, because you're actually getting people deeper into their buying process when they use site search, as opposed to using site navigation or using the body of the page to get deeper into the site.
Fantastic. Now that's very, very useful information. Now, in terms of beyond reporting, what is your favorite custom segment in Google Analytics and why? And first of all, it's probably we've covered this in other episodes, but just at a high level. First of all, what is a custom segment? And second of all, what is your favorite and why?
Sure. So custom segments are a very powerful feature with Google Analytics, where you can actually set predefined filters around any of the metrics that Google Analytics provides, and allows you to look at reports in a much more granular way than what you may be able to out of the box.
Sure.
So I'll go through a filter now in terms of how to set one up, and a favorite filter of mine to really get some really good insights out of a website, and really make you look at how your website performs in a particular way.
So I guess there's 3 things that our audience might be confusing if they're novices or new to analytics. There's custom reporting.
Yep.
There's custom filters, and then there's obviously custom segments. So they kind of relate, but they're different things. So I'm sure our audience would appreciate as much insight as you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So they all kind of do the same thing in allowing you to see data in the way that you want to be able to see it.
Yep.
Custom reports allow you to look at a set of metrics and dimensions in a single page based on what you want to see. The default reports that Google provides are good, but they're not necessarily great for every type of business or for every person. So custom reports allow a custom set of metrics and dimensions in a single page. Custom filters, or what I call inline filters, allow you to filter things on the fly within the existing or default Google Analytics reports. Advanced segments or custom segments, segments that you can create if you're using filtering a lot. You can create advanced segments so you don't have to create the same inline filters every single time. You set them up once, and you can essentially just tick a box to use them when you need to. So I'll go through creating an advanced segment now, and really every account should have a slew of advanced segments already predefined, and Google will give you some default ones, but highly recommend setting up even just some basic advanced segments that you use on a daily basis, because reporting out of Google Analytics is all about segmentation and drilling down on data, and just not looking at the default reports, because essentially they don't give the insight that you need.
Sure. Yeah. In fact, I think that while you're pulling up that advanced segments to talk about, or the custom segments to talk about, I think it was Avinash Kaushik of Google fame that famously coined the term segment or die. So I think that, I think it's what you say is absolutely relevant. Specifically, I think that in my experience, and your experience is much more vast than mine, but my experience tells me that with custom segments, you're able to look at groups or types of visitors, even if going beyond the metrics and even the time spans that you might want to look at, you're actually pulling out a type of visitor based on certain rules. And so you're able to look at that group of visitors in isolation and apply that group of visitors against a certain report. So I'll let you get into one of the ones that you set up.
Great. So what we'll do is we'll jump into creating what I call the no transactions advanced segment. So what that does, it allows us to look at all of our visitors in two halves. We want to look at visitors who convert, and we want to look at visitors who don't convert. And the numbers that actually pulls out are very interesting in terms of how people actually engage on the site and how they engage when they convert. So
and we're obviously speaking about specifically e-commerce conversions at this point.
So this is e-commerce conversions. So when I say conversions, for this example, I mean transactions.
Sure.
Okay, so what I've got here is a site where we've got transaction data coming through from e-commerce reporting. So what I've done is I've just clicked on the advanced segments button at the top here. Now Google provided a default segment that we'll use for this example called visits with transactions. So what we'll do is we'll tick that, and we'll apply that to the report. So what this is doing, it's going to show us based on the report that we're on. So I'm just going to go to the main overview report that everyone sees when they first log into Google Analytics. And what this is now showing us, because we've enabled this report, we can see that visits with transactions is the segment that we've applied to this report. And all of the data we're looking at now is based solely on that segment. All right, so we've got, for this particular segment, 2,674 visits where someone has transacted, 2,674 visits with a transaction. What I'll do now is create the opposite of that segment. So if we go into advanced segments again, and we click on create a new custom segment, that brings us into the segment builder. So we'll give it a name. We'll call this visits with no transactions.
That's pretty logical.
Pretty logical, I like to think so. What we'll do is we want to include visits with a transaction. So we'll click on the drop down menu here and start typing in transactions to find the metric that we want.
And it's nice that it effectively Google auto-completes it for you, so anything related to that first set of words or letters that you're typing in, it'll show you what's available to be added as a metric that you're measuring.
Yeah, it certainly beats drilling through hundreds of different metrics and dimensions to find what you want.
Sure.
So we'll click on transactions there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on this drop-down menu, and we're going to choose equals 0.
Sure, makes sense.
All right, so basically what we're telling Google is to apply this filter and look for visits that include transactions that equal 0. Okay?
So they effectively didn't transact.
Basically, show us everyone who didn't have a transaction for that visit. All right, so what we'll do is we will click on save, and that will apply our filter or our segment. So now what we've got our original segment that we applied before, visits with transactions, and then we've got effectively the opposite of that, visits with no transactions. So the reason I like this report is that if we go down and have a look at some of these numbers, we can see that firstly our visit numbers reflect visits with transactions, 2,674, and then the 26,000 is effectively the I guess the inverse of that. That's everyone who didn't transact.
Sure.
So yeah, those numbers by itself don't say a heck of a lot. It gets really interesting. We start drilling down to what I call engagement metrics, where we've got, for example, the average number of pages per visit. So here we can see that when people transact, so visits with transactions, people look at on average 24 pages when they transact. If we look at the opposite of that, when people don't transact, they look at an average of 5.
Big difference.
Massive difference. If we look at the average visit duration as well, When people transact, they spend an average of 18 minutes on the site. When people don't transact, they spend an average of just under 4 minutes.
Over
Again,
4 times as much.
It's over 4 times as long. Bounce rate, good old bounce rate. So visits with transactions, so when someone buys something on the site, they don't bounce. They've engaged on the site, they've clicked around, they've had to actually purchase something. When people don't transact, they bounce at 40%. So what this tells us is that this is really why engagement is so important, to really build engagement around your website. When people transact, they look at nearly 5 times as many pages as people who don't buy something.
And I guess the inverse could be true if, for example, if you are a website where, and we have seen this with certain clients of ours, where those engagement metrics can be a little bit misleading. I.e., most of our clients would assume that the more pages someone visits, the better. Yep. But that can sometimes indicate that they're struggling to find what they're looking for on the site, so they have to click around. They've got no choice. Yep. Sometimes they'll engage quicker because they can get to what they're looking for quicker. They can complete their transaction quicker and check out. Yep. So sometimes, depending on the type of website, whether it's content-driven, whether it's e-commerce, whatever the case may be, these types of metrics, I think also what you're pointing out is the fact that these can tell you very, very quickly what types of metrics you would ideally try to be looking for clients that are already transacting on your website. They're telling you what kind of site experience they're having that is making them convert.
Yeah, exactly. What you want to do is look in, for example, a content report and look at the pages people actually do look at when they convert. For example, you're going to have the standard, the home page, a category page, product page, maybe 4 or 5 steps of the checkout process. But very often you're going to have, about us page, contact us page, returns policy page, delivery costs, delivery times. All of these pages, which are critical to a buying process, are typically going to be viewed by anyone who converts. Yeah. Especially new customers who still need to build credibility with a company, have never bought there before, don't know what delivery costs are, don't know what delivery times are. They need to look at all of these pages to get a feel and get an understanding for what their buying experience is going to be like.
And I guess the opportunity there is, and one of the opportunities that you've pointed out to me, and I guess to the business and we look at, is the fact that if something like that, if every single visitor is visiting a page that's got a phone number on it, or they're visiting a page with shipping information, if we can incorporate some of that information, and they're doing it every single time, if we can incorporate some of that into the header or the footer or the sidebar or something like that on every single page that doesn't necessitate the site visitor going to that specific page for that additional information, then it eases the experience.
Absolutely. I've taught you well.
I'm just a young Jedi. So anyway, fantastic. That is fantastic. Appreciate you showing us that custom segment. Really good stuff. From your perspective, what do you see ahead in terms of the future for GA? Where's it headed? What can they do to make this awesome free tool? And we've talked about this in other episodes. It's not really free. It's free, but it's not free to use.
Yeah, it's a loss leader, so to speak.
Exactly. But what do you see ahead? What can they do?
Well, I attend the Google Analytics Partner Summit every year.
I know,
in California. Maybe one day I'll bring you with me.
Maybe, if I'm lucky.
Yeah. But yeah, the amount of, for example, in the last one was, when was it, October last year? Yeah. Was just chock full of new features and really a roadmap in terms of where Google Analytics, the product, was being taken. And there's just some amazing stuff being rolled out and being announced, and some of it's already made its way into the product. For example, content experiments. They're looking to wrap up Google Website Optimizer as their A/B and multivariate testing tool, and actually incorporate that into Google Analytics, which is an absolute no-brainer in terms of joining those two products. And they're slowly rolling that out. I think they're launching just with A/B testing to start with. Yep. I'm sure multivariate testing won't be too far away. But the integration of webmaster tools into Google Analytics as well. The integration of AdWords has been there for a while, but they're more closely aligning those two products. Yep. So the integration of Google products into really probably the key tool for Google being Google Analytics is something that's evolving quite rapidly. Yeah. The integration of social into Google Analytics reporting probably in the last 3 to 6 months has been quite rapid in terms of the growth of the reporting capabilities with social. Yeah. And being able to report on the likes of Facebook and the activity going on with a Facebook page, and being able to tie that in with all the other great reporting that Google Analytics provides for on-site usage, being able to tie in off-site usage with social media is just incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Multi-channel reporting, being able to see the different touch points with a conversion across the likes of direct traffic, some of the next day going to organic and typing a branded search term, the next day searching on an unbranded search term, and then converting. You know, a year ago you wouldn't know what actually led to the conversion.
That's right.
Now you can see every single step of the funnel.
That's right.
And assisted revenue and assisted conversion is unbelievably powerful at providing another dimension to return on investment with any online marketing spend.
I guess that went along with last click attribution changes within Google Analytics, because you can't really have that funnel, and you can't have those allocations of okay, this is an assisted conversion from this refer, whatever it may be. So they've made some really big changes, I think, to help assign a value to a website above and beyond that final conversion point, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's only going to grow. Its influence is only going to grow. It's probably going to stay free, although they may come out with they already have come out with a premium version. But what that's ultimately going to look like in terms of the separation of the free and premium product, so to speak, what that's ultimately going to look like, I guess, is up to Google. But definitely, as per everything with Google, it's going to be pretty exciting, whatever they do. So, Ken, thanks again for joining us. This is the final part of our 3-part series on Google Analytics, so we hope you have enjoyed it. It's been an amazing experience for me, myself, Lance, Ken, the whole team here at Exceed to deep dive into analytics and to give you a little bit of an inside, a cross-section view of what the tool can do for you and what value it can bring to your business. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thanks, guys.